What's going on, Growler fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Doghouse. This one for Friday, November 17th. Chris Ballard here, play-by-play voice of the Growlers, joined by Brady Reed and Kyle Curtis here. And today we're going to take a quick look at what the first 12 games of the season look like, and we're going to help you tee up the Growlers' season-long 8-game road trip. Boys, this one going to be a doozy. So, boys, let's just jump in. We're 12 games in. 5-5-2 for the Growlers thus far this season, a cool 500 record across the board. I guess the question is, are we satisfied? Is this where we expected the Growlers to be? Are we upset? I think a lot of fans in Growlers Nation are pretty frustrated with the early comings and goings of this Growlers squad, but me personally, this is about maybe where I expected this team to be. Still getting used to each other, I think, out there. Still a new head coach. They didn't have a long or any preseason really at all. Yeah. So I think the Growlers' best days are still ahead of them, and to come out of the gate 5-5-2 after your first 12 games of the season, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a successful start. Like you said, we got new coaching staff, brand new team. So, I mean, there is going to be some growing pains there, just people trying to get some chemistry, and I think this road trip's really going to help with that.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a really fun team to watch, probably one of the most fun teams since I've been here. They're really fast, really skilled, and I love the physicality to the team.
Brady?
Yeah, and I would just say that the one road trip they had was a very brief one, and against the Trois Rivières team that's flying right now.
They're unreal.
So that's a tough trip. It's a quick one. You don't get that opportunity to bond.
You're in the hotel for 2 nights or something.
Yeah.
You don't really get that authentic 8-game road trip level bonding. So to both of your points, I do think that this trip is going to be an important one, I think, to really bringing this group together against some tough opponents on this upcoming road trip. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to make sure that we really, squeeze the sponge clean of everything that we want to talk about of the first 12 games. 5-3-1-0 at home. I think the fans who have come out in droves to start this season, they haven't been too dissatisfied with what they've seen on the ice at the Mary Brown Center.
No, it's been a lot of really good games. I think to Casey's point, just the style of the team.
It's definitely different.
Yeah. It's maybe not to this point like the level of puck possession that we've seen with previous iterations of the team. We'll get into Zach O'Brien's return and how that might change shortly. But as far as entertainment goes, they're long games. There's a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on. But I think you're getting your money's
More
worth.
bang for your buck.
Yeah, and maybe obviously if it was up to them, more wins than 5. But a lot of 1-goal games, a lot of went either way. So as a fan, you're seeing a lot of new teams. You're seeing some tight games. I don't think you can complain in that department.
Any surprises? Any disappointments? I mean, I know I get called a homer, fair enough, but this is our opportunity to, maybe even talk about the seedy underbelly of the first 12 games. Any disappointments or anything, or is this all just kind of where we expected to be-ish through the first 12 games?
Well, I mean, like Todd Skirving said in one of his post-game interviews, I mean, when they won the Kelly Cup, they were a 500 team to start that year.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's right where we are right now. So, I mean, they're not worried, so I don't think we should be worried either.
Anything from you?
No, it's a good point. I would just say the last, 2 weekends, home and away, with how good Luke Cavlin's been playing.
Yeah.
You would maybe want to have rewarded him with more points. I think that will come.
I think so, too.
That run support, it seems unsustainable that this forward group's only going to score a couple goals a game. So
right.
Let's just win a couple for Cavi. He's been incredible.
No, you're right. And I think a big factor towards the less wins than we'd like, you have to look a little bit at the power play.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I don't like saying the word anemic, but these are the stats I've pulled for this one. So they're ranked 23rd in the ECHL at 13.6%. That's going to tell you enough that those numbers don't lie one way or the other. But the Growlers are 6 power play goals on 44 opportunities, but that number is also misleading. They were 3 for their first 11 in their first 2 games of the season. And so in the last 10 games, 3 for 33. 9.1%, which would put you third last in the ECHL. So that I've busted out my big red pen and have that circled over and over on my game notes for tonight's matchup against Reading.
Yep.
That has to start getting better, and it has to start getting better now. To your point, Zach O'Brien, his working back into the lineup, it has helped. He has played one game since returning from Slovakia. He has one goal, and it came on the power play. So, yeah, it's a small sample size, but that to me is something when we head out onto this road trip starting tonight that I want to see just steady climbs. I don't care if they go 0 for the entire trip, as long as you could see the shots and the danger is there. And I think it's going to come, especially too, we're probably going to see Isaac Johnson for the first time this season on this road trip. So you can't put Zach O'Brien and Isaac Johnson in this lineup and not see the goals go up, both regular, even strength, and on the power play.
Yeah, to that point, I think as the forward group has more depth, there's a little less urgency. So, if the big boys are out for a long shift, we get a power play, you might be inclined to leave them out there. They're not that fresh. You get a bit more depth. Your Berezowski, Crookshanks are on for a long shift. Oh, no, now we have to turn to Isaac Johnson, Zach O'Brien, Brock Coffey. Like, the more depth and the ability to roll 2 units, I think that actually will help a lot. And just law of averages, I just don't think this team is a 14 or less than 14% power play group. They're going to sort it out. It's going to take time. It's going to take practices, which we've done more of in the 2 weeks in the season than we did really in our training camp, right? So don't lose faith yet.
No.
I definitely have to agree with you there. Obviously, with the return of Zach O'Brien, he's great on the power play. He whips the puck around phenomenally, and then when he gets open, he has that beauty of a shot that he can just rip top corner. Sneaky. So I really do think the return of him is really going to help this power play out, and guys like Isaac Johnson, all these offensive guys that we're getting back now are really going to help with that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And so I guess through the first 12 games, we asked about maybe what we didn't like. Were there any surprises on the positive side of things? Who have we learned to love? Who are the fan favorites that we've seen emerge out of the ether through the first 12 games? I'll go first in one that I know you and I have had a few conversations about him, and he's not because he scores big goals, but I really love what he brought, especially at home in this most recent homestand. Defenseman Joe Massonis.
Yeah.
He's turned into one of my favorite players. We watch him closely in warm-up. We all know he's got a heck of a shot.
Yep.
He's got a ton of skill. He doesn't mind playing with some grit, and he comes from an athletic family. I've been chatting with his mom on our broadcasts because she's tuned in at home and interacting with us on social media. That's been a lot of fun, and just seeing what he did in our last home game against Worcester. I don't know if too many fans get a chance to really sit down and watch the end of warm-up, but it's typically kind of a cheeky thing that teams do. You try and when your warm-up session is done, you fire one into the empty net in the other end just as a little stick it to you kind of feel-good moment.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of a battle between the Growlers and the Railers, and Joe Massonis was knocking down pucks as the Railers were trying to score, and the fans gave a little round of applause even as he exited the ice. He turned the Growlers net around. Like, if you take warm-up that seriously, we've seen how seriously he takes himself in games and what he's able to do. He scored his first Growler goal here at home. I love the complete package of what this young man offers on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, had to mention the head of hair that he has too. Just an incredible flow. But that warm-up moment is pretty similar to that thing Sagan and Scheifele had going for a bit with the rock, paper, scissors. It's just like that little bit of stuff that like you might not get from home, but you get when you come down to the games. It's just that added bit of entertainment. Love Massonis. I think we got to mention Tate Singleton too.
I agree.
He's a guy that for his on ice.
I couldn't say Tate first. He felt too obvious, but he has to be said here.
I mean, his on ice contributions, like he's not the biggest guy out there, but he is fearless, so fast, such a hard worker. Doesn't take a shift off. Clearly, the Marlies took notice. He got a quick stint up there. Luckily, I mean, selfishly, luckily, he's back with us for this road trip. And also just like away from the ice, he's such a fun guy. He's just
he is.
The boys in the room seem to love him. He provides a bit of comedic
and that first
relief.
time we interviewed him this year, it's just a Saturday night in Newfoundland, baby.
He's just feeding all the lines.
Yeah, like this kid, fan favorite, stamped right on his helmet, just like his name was during practice a couple of times there. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures. But
he's really like a spark plug out there.
Yeah.
Obviously, like he gets this team going. He's got 12 points in 11 games, 5
That'll
goals.
do.
Mm-hmm. And he's kind of a player who reminds me a little bit of Brad Marchand because he's a little bit undersized. He got that dog in him, and he really, gets the electricity in the building going and the guys on the bench going a lot.
And his silly game. Top notch. That
Yeah,
little
the
paddle down in the corner,
Rotodorio.
you gotta love that. No, so he. Any other kind of fan favorites? I mean, it's hard to go through this much of the show and not mention the two leading scorers in Grant Cruikshank and Jackson Berezowski. But I think they came in as advertised, high-end players in the college or junior ranks, and they haven't missed a beat.
No, I've said this a few times to you. Like, those guys are what I would call like the modern aspiring pro. Like, physically, they treat their bodies like professional athletes. I mean, the results, the points speak for themselves.
Sure do.
Just Bear's got that ability to just make something out of nothing, and Crooks just at both ends, a 200-foot player, a true centerman, physical specimen as well. Just very strong for young players. They got that side figured out. I think they're just going to get better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. One guy that kind of sticks out to me is Saran Noel. I know this might be off the board a little bit, but I mean, he's out there. He's laying hits. He's fighting, trying to shift the momentum back to the Newfoundland side. I think he's a really big part of this team, just going out there and trying to shift the momentum of the game back towards the Growlers' favor.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Lots of new fan favorites this season, and hopefully even more to come. Well, I'm not hoping that our roster turns over and we have to see new players become fan favorites, but in any case, speaking of new things, we have a new captain on the Newfoundland Growlers. Todd Skirving takes the torch almost physically from James Melindy. It was really neat to see Todd get to see, not to mention how neat it was to see Melindy come back and still be a part of the leadership group and really kind of paving the way for Todd to wear the letter on his chest.
It did look weird to see Melindy wearing that A at first. I know you mentioned that on the air, but, he seemed very gracious about it all. Todd was, very quick to, after the game that night to remind everybody just how good of a leader James was and continues to be.
He put that big thing on social media as well.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So, no, that was a good moment. That was, just made for really good energy for a Thursday night game. I think people can rest now. They're happier. I know there was a big push, and I think, just part of that was the new coaching staff and just the amount of turnover.
They just had to get it right for themselves.
Yeah, just had to make sure. I don't think there was any, questions about his legitimacy to the role.
No.
We got that figured out now. We can start to focus on other things, the power play, the 8-game road trip. So,
well, I think let's talk about the road trip. This will be the longest trip of the season for our Growlers. 8 games, starting with 2 in Reading, 3 in Utah, and 3 in Idaho. This is a tough road trip, boys.
Yeah, it definitely is. Obviously, we're going up against Reading first. I know we did sweep them at home to start the season.
To me, that's meaningless.
Yeah, I really do think that they're going to try to get a pushback to try to get one on us here, but I really do think that we're going to come away on the road with a successful record, and I really do think that through this road trip, like I said earlier, that these guys are going to build a better bond. Which is going to transfer over onto the ice play. So I really do think that this road trip is going to be crucial for this team.
So Brady, I guess what will define success for the Growlers on this 8-game road trip in your mind? Answer the question. I will consider this trip a success if.
Yeah, I mean, it's way too early in the year to be like, season-defining trip, I think. But it will dictate a lot of the in-dressing room stuff, I think. Like we mentioned, that Far Riviera trip, way too brief. You didn't even have to whip the passport out for that one.
Right.
You didn't have to do that long bus ride. This is going to be a heck of a trip. I just think these guys are going to get to know each other really well on this trip. I mean, I think we got to temper expectations with regards to how many wins. You got to pick up points because you don't want to fall behind. But the good news is for them, for the most part, this division is like in a bit of a logjam right now.
Yeah.
They're still in 3rd place in the North Division, and you'd think that
kind of crazy.
Yeah, you'd think the place is on fire some days. Just the reaction, and I understand. It's
me too. I get it.
It's the level that we've
the
grown
bar has
accustomed
been
to.
so high.
I would just say, getting that togetherness. That's more of not necessarily a stat. That'd be a huge piece for me. I'd like to see that first practice when the guys get back and just see how they're interacting with each other.
I like
that. But the power play does have to improve. I think you've really got to hone in on that for this trip. And then if it does, you will win games. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. And I think for me, extrapolating from your point, I want to see more goals, period.
Yes.
I think the Growlers are averaging under 3 a game, which is like literally maybe a goal shorter than what they're used to averaging.
100%.
So I'd like to see a few more goals go in. And I think with your O'Briens and your Isaac Johnsons and your Tate Singletons back, I think you're going to see that. I agree with you. My success is not necessarily going to be measured in wins and losses on this road trip. Yeah, like you said, points are fine. But to me, if you can win a game against each of these three opponents, I think that will serve you well moving into the rest of the season, because we're going to host Idaho and I believe Utah later on in the season. So these are big series. You have to learn these opponents now, and hopefully when they come here is when we can take it to them. But in their barn, this is a long trip with a lot of travel. I think we need to temper some expectations in terms of what the wins and losses might look like. But if they start scoring more goals, if we see O'Brien and Johnson integrated and really becoming a fabric of this team again, combine that with Luke Cavallin, I think you can come away with, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 points on this trip and be happy with the steps that this team has taken.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I definitely have to agree with you. They definitely have some tough games coming up too. Idaho's 9-2 right now to start the year. They're kind of a bit of a wagon. They got a guy there. I think Wade Murphy has 16 points, and they have another guy who's 15 points, 10 goals. So I mean, they're going to be a rough couple of games, but I really do think that they'll learn a lot from them. I really do think that they're going to come away with one from each series. Like I'd be really surprised if they don't come away with one from each series.
And to start, I don't want to take anything away from these two Reading games off the hop, because I think Reading, that's a proud group with guys that we know on that team. Ryan Chizowski still leading the ECHL with 10 goals. They hate where they are. And they hate that the Growlers took 3, and they're going to be looking for their revenge in their building as they seek their own playoff spot in the division. So I don't want anyone to think, well, okay, at least there's these two in Reading before you go out west and get slaughtered. No, I think Reading is going to be hungrier than they were during opening weekend. They're going to be a better team than they were on opening weekend. And these are not going to be easy games, as Ryan Chizowski's on an absolute heater, and he's at home hosting the Growlers, and that's going to be an extra motivating factor for him. The Royals just got their goaltender, Nolan Meyer, back from the American Hockey League. He struggled to start the year, so to me, I think he's going to have a bounce back game tonight, Friday night, against the Growlers. You want to see them go and put up like a 6 spot or something tonight. Get the juices flowing good heading into the rest of the trip, or else like you could see a lot of tightly squeezed sticks come next weekend.
Yeah, well, not to put pressure on them, but they haven't won a road game. It's been a small sample size, but the longer it goes without winning one, you feel that. Yeah. So get it done. Get it done early. But I think like you said about Reading, if we're going to talk about how much roster turnover we have, it would only be fair to mention theirs. So they're just finding their feet too.
Exactly.
And they're figuring it out. Chiz has figured it out.
Sure has.
He's been scoring. So you got to expect that to continue. But yeah, expect their best. And like Casey said about playing the Idahos and the Utahs of the world, if you are not excited about playing the best teams in the league,
what are you doing here?
Yeah, you question what your expectations and ambitions are. So,
yeah, I really do agree with you there. I think winning this game tonight is crucial. I mean, it'll get the ball rolling, it'll get the momentum going on their side. The guys will start having a lot more fun together on the road, and I think that will transition to a successful road trip. So I really do think that this game tonight is crucial, and I'm really excited to see what happens. We got Zach O'Brien back, and I know he was coming off, I think, like a 22-hour travel day after.
It was unbelievable. Go check the tape on the Growlers' social media from his post-game interview after Sunday. Absolutely unreal.
So seeing him back, rested up, I think he's going to have a great game tonight.
Before, I guess, we send it off here on this edition, for these two games against Reading, pick one player each who we feel player to watch, player to look at as we head in. And maybe I'll start us off, but I think Isaac Johnson. I think he's going to hit the ground running. We've seen it in every season he's played with the Growlers so far. He's taken a step. He's taken a step in the playoffs each year. And I think that even though he may have missed a handful of games to start the year, I wouldn't be shocked that if he stays healthy and stays with the Growlers all season, that we're not talking about him in the MVP category at the end of the year. And I think it starts right here this weekend, wearing Ryan Chizowski's old number 23 for the Growlers this season. Isaac Johnson's my pick for this weekend. Who do you like, Brady?
Poetic, first of all. I love that. I would have picked Isaac because I've seen him buzzing around, but I will
That too.
I'll go with Zach. I mean,
Yeah.
he scored in that game. He looked dangerous in that game. Seemed like he had an extra step in that game. He's skating a lot over there, clearly.
And he did that with no practice.
That's what I'm saying. He was a shell of a man afterwards in
Yeah.
the post game. So
And he still gave us maybe the best interview he's ever given us. And like, you could tell he wants to be back here. This isn't, oh, well, I guess I'll go play in Newfoundland.
yeah, I mean, he gets to come home. He's had a couple of good sleeps in, maybe a Jigs dinner or something.
Couple of
and now
Big Marys.
Let's send him out on the road and see what he can do. And we've seen what he can do. I can only assume that he'll continue that.
Yeah, my pick's got to be Tater, man. Tate Singleton.
Love that.
Coming down from the Marlies, I think he's going to be buzzing that he got called up, and he's over a point per game right now. So
Yep.
I think he's going to be a key to success here. He's going to get under a lot of teams' skin, and he's going to be scoring goals, throwing hits. I can't wait to see him play.
And even he was text messaging me during our broadcasts when he was in Toronto,
Yep.
with a game, later on that evening, and he was watching us.
Dialed.
Yeah. So I think he's excited to be back, and I agree. You cut him loose on this road trip. Who knows what he's going to be
He will
capable
make
of.
no friends. I'll tell you that.
Oh no. Well, but this could be a trip where everyone in the East and Western Conference could know who Tate Singleton is.
Correct.
By the end of next weekend. So getting really excited for this one, but I do think that's going to do it for us here today on this edition of the Doghouse. But folks, don't forget, 2 tickets, 2 tees on sale. Give the gift of Growlers hockey.
2 tickets, 1 tee.
That's what I meant to say. So you have to fight over the t-shirt, but people are always fighting over the holidays. You might as well be over an awesome Growler tee. 2 ticks in a tee, $34.99. At least I have the price right.
That's correct.
Growlers auctions underway again. We finally got our hands on the game-worn jerseys from last season. Lot 1 is available now. There's a dozen or so jerseys for purchase. NLGrowlers.com/auctions. What else we got? We have,
I'm going to jump in here.
please.
Obviously, December seems like a ways away here now, but we got some great games coming up here. We got Newfoundlander Night brought to you by the Association for New Canadians. That should
Awesome.
be a fun night with a lot of new Canadians in the building. And then December 9th, the next night, we have NTV Teddy Toss, which is
Always my favorite.
one of my favorite games of the year. And then December the 10th, running it off with Buddy Jr.'s birthday.
Oh, baby.
So that's going to be there are going to be some fun games coming up. So make sure to come down and get some tickets.
Love that. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's like you said, December will sneak up on us, but while we're away, just just keep in touch on Growler socials. We'll get you all the highlights. Watch on Flow, listen on Mixler. Just stay in touch with the team because, like I said, this
Absolutely.
is going to be a big road trip for this group. Hopefully, they come back on a high note, and we got a heck of a December weekend planned. So
Yeah, we do. So get your tickets now. NLGrowlers.com/tickets. And don't forget, this 8-game road trip kicks off tonight against the Reading Royals. I'll be on the air 15 minutes prior to puck drop. So join me on Flow Hockey and on Mixler. So on behalf of Brady and KC, I'm Chris Ballard. This has been the Doghouse. We'll catch you next time.